Okay, hello everyone. The great compassion of worlds will arrive soon. And what would a species that no longer feared look like? It has come to my attention that a species is acting within its artificial convictions of where it is. You know, the issue with the human species has been that it has tried, just like the Lord of the Rings, to find that one ring that rules them all. We have tried in a world so multidimensional, so vast, so appearing infinite and endless. We are in some sense trying to make things have meaning through one canal, one channel. You know, when I was younger, I had the impression that I'm a human being on a rock in the middle of nowhere. And now, you know, after 30 laps around the sun, my vision is becoming something where it's as if the world was not a noun. It was always a verb. It was a verb disguised as many nouns. Many moments, appearances suggest worlds of their own, but they are all standing in the world of worlds. You see, there's something, you can say it's a poetic technique, right, where it's like the same thing applied to itself in the sense of like the heart of hearts, the world of worlds, the mind of minds, you know, the species of species, you know, the civilization of civilizations, you know. And so what this means is that mankind is an energetic experiential movement in the realm, and so it is now time for the species to acknowledge in some sense the dynamic humanity, you know. It's a movement. We are living for a verb that never ends. And once we understand that, we become a steward of the species, a guardian of the living earth. Because really, when you look at human intelligence, what are the ways it can move? What are the ways that reality occurs? And so human beings are creatures of emergence. You know, you can look at reality, highlight yourself out of everything and think that the meaning of your world is based on you. You see, but this is, I would say, it's the early mind. There is something going on in this world that it's as if there is a power waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to be seen. And this goes even into theosophy. You see, many scholars, you know, have realized there's something else here. Many human beings, actually. You know, Terence McKenna said one of the most incredible sentences I've heard in this lifetime. And he said there is another tenant in the room, as if humanity was never alone. There are minds moving like rivers behind our eyes. You know, before giving this episode, starting it, I just had a feeling that something is coming, that the human species has experienced its misery enough. Do you know? It's as if defeat, and then suddenly, you know, it's as if the roar of the soul arises, bored by its own defeat. I feel this is something new I'm gonna say. Something recently I've been thinking about. I feel that human species, the human civilization, needs to be restructured, recontextualized, and it needs to be divided in a type of quadrants. And what I mean by this is that there are 4 classes of being, there are 4 states of being. Okay? And somebody's going to be like, Mr. Within, what do you mean there's 4 states of being? Isn't there just like being and not being? And I will say no. I'm going to make a prediction that I would say in the next, getting close to the next 600 years, the species will awaken from how it has been dualistically functioning from the beginning. whether it awakens to the non-dualism of unity, whether it experiences the non-dualism of the void, or if it experiences the endless duality of the infinite. Everything in this world, in order for mankind to understand it, we put it in a spectrum. And what that means is we created a place in the middle of nowhere so we can have all the other places identified. Mankind is so hilarious that he doesn't know what he is and is subjectively living as if he does. You know, there's a emotion that motivates me when I give these talks. It has been there. This emotion has been in the background of me every talk I have given. You know, and it's an emotion of an urgency. It feels like there should be something happening that isn't. It feels like the species should be seeing things that it isn't. And I'm not saying like metaphysical realities, you know. You know, there will come a moment in everybody's life where the unknown will call you forth, and you will realize that memories, the past, and the mind, it is an incredible tool, but it is not enough to satisfy the reality of the situation. You know, it's like this, imagine this religious kid, you know, praying alone and being as if, God, am I here to move me, or are you here to move everything? And what is the value of divinity when there is no self? What is the meaning of the world when there is no self? You know, because we are a sense of self, we have an idea of a creation and destruction. But we must realize that energy is beyond personality. What moves the moment is the whole moment. You know, something either from the outer realms or inner realms will shake humanity. But it will not destroy humanity, it will shake humanity. And from the revelation of the structured mind to the revelation of the free soul, your body may be heavy, your body may suffer, your body may cry. Your mind will watch. Attributelessly, as the real presence of the moment smiles. You know, we are reaching the flight of the species into multidimensionalism. A species that thought it was alone until it looked in the mirror and saw everything else. And so, alone we walk. You know, it's kind of like they say, you walk, you use your feet, and you climb the mountains that you can with your body. And then you reach the summit of the mountain peak, which you have used your legs to climb, which you have used your mind to climb. It's as if the mountain was life, you have been using your mind to live here. But once you get to the summit of that moment where your idea of self, your attention, and the energy that is existence is being one moment simultaneously, it's as if you use feet to climb the mountain, but if you want to climb the sky, you need wings. And so this is what I think is happening, a sort of psychological metamorphosis for the human species, that we thought we were just individuals. We thought it was only us. We thought that if you really look at it, every human being is in this weird self-obsession. And we have to be to survive, right? It's as if on some level we're like, no, and everybody on the planet, don't be a narcissist, be compassionate and kind. But every day the person wakes up, their decisions are for the vitality and the continuity of the self. We are egotistical, not because we are evil beings, not because we're ignorant beings. We are egotistical, we have egos because it is the best strategy. It is the way the mind, I would say, is trying to not startle itself. That means imagine a being that appears out of nowhere, doesn't know where it is, and starts freaking out. And then suddenly, in its freaking out, it has to hold on to something, it has to ground and stabilize its attention in reality. The metamorphosis of an entity that is identifying with an idea, indirect idea, to an entity that is identifying with the experience of the universal sector. You are a universal being. And part of your universalism is your humanism, and part of your humanism is your culturalism, and part of your culturalism is your ego. So dear viewer, this might not be something you have heard in this world, but we are here to, in some sense, be, performers in front of eternity. It was so poetic. I was like, you're telling me everything is changing in this world except change. And it's as if the changeless are watching. What else can happen, The mind is displaying freedoms that the body doesn't have. In the inner realms, it's obvious that there are freedoms that, you can't physically acknowledge. I'll give you an example. I can literally visualize right now my car, or I could visualize myself like I'm sitting in my car. I could visualize myself slowly floating, out of my window, driver's seat window, and just going let's say 100 meters floating into the air. I can visualize that. I can see it like a film. That means if there's content, but it's not real in the sense that I'm not actually flying. I'm just sitting in the car. But in my mind, I'm experiencing what it would be like if I was to, in some sense, fly or something. The idea of you, have you noticed it has changed? Have you noticed it has changed? But the only thing that seems to have not changed in all the places we have gone, think about it from the beginning of your life, wherever you are. You have traveled, you have walked, you have moved in this world, you have seen different people, different experiences, right? But I will ask you this question. Has the awareness that existence is present ever changed? And this is poetically the divine string that must be pulled. The question, who am I? And it's a question that is scary because the one asking it is not the one who is thinking it, is the who. So when you realize you're an unknown being, it's okay. Don't be afraid, don't freak out. The unknown is here. And something bizarre you will understand is that at the edge of knowledge, the unknown is waiting for us too. And all the people in this world who have in some sense dabbled in articulation, I will say there will come a moment where we will see the world is listening to a mind that we are in. The presence of a cosmos that is alive, the presence of a universe that breathes through mankind. The advanced communicators, the pilots of consciousness, the advanced humanity will arrive soon. It will arrive from within to without. And children will be born with hearts unsealed. And they will feel a suffering that the earth is going through, that those who are in some sense trapped in their inner realms never saw. You see, it's the responsibility of the eyes that care for what they are. You know, there's this story, there's this guy named Rumi, you know, he's in his mid-20s, like late 20s, and he's sitting by this fountain set like 1,000 years ago in Persia. And so there's this guy named Shams Tabrizi, this Sufi mystic, and Rumi is sitting there by the fountain reading this like I don't know, like science textbook, or like this, you know, academic textbook at a time where there were no, like, what do you call it? At a time where there were no books, nobody cared for books. Rumi was the son of a duke, and he's sitting by a fountain and he's reading the science book. And out of nowhere, the Sufi mystic Shams comes out of nowhere, and he says, "Hey kid," and he's a very spiritual, enlightened being, and he says, "Hey kid, what are you reading?" And Rumi says, "I am reading the newest sciences of the time. This is nothing you will understand, old man." And Shams Tabrizi, like, Rumi takes the path of arrogance, he takes the path of ignorance, he takes the path of self-claimed righteousness, you see? And so he says he sees this guy with a big beard and, like, you know, dervish clothing and all this coming out of nowhere and asking him, and he's like, "It's nothing you would understand, old man, just, you know, go roam in the forest, don't ask," right? He's being arrogant. And in that moment, something remarkable happens, because Shams Tabrizi grabs Rumi's book and throws it in the fountain, and Rumi is suddenly hit by levels of shock. One level of shock: oh my God, why did I sit beside a fountain? Second level of shock: why did I, in some sense, you know, let this guy, in some sense, grab the book from me? Third level of shock: who is this guy? Who does this guy think he is throwing my book in the water, right? And so Rumi gets angry, and he says, and you know, he doesn't let his ego speak. He says, "Do you know what you have done?" to Shams. He says, "You have gotten rid of the most advanced book, one of the rarest books in this land. You have gotten rid of it. You have destroyed knowledge." He shouts it at Shams. And Shams Tabrizi looks at him, smiles, grabs the book from the fountain as if it never fell, and gives it to him and says, "Knowledge that can be wiped with water is no knowledge at all. You are in an unknown world, and knowledge that is temporarily sufficable is not enough. You know, the species has to roar. We are 8 billion, you know what it is? It's like the mind is lionized. It's like 8 billion minds of lions in 8 billion human bodies. It's like the ape, you know, learned from the lion. But its roar is intellectual. Its roar is in its vision, in its awareness, in what it sees. You see, that is the ability of mankind. That is how we stepped out of the food chain. We saw what the others could not, and we entered a new dimension. And honorably we will carry the banners of mankind till the end of time. For this world may not be for us, but we are here for it. Rise, mankind, rise. What else is there? Is it enough to just, sit in your own cave, you know? Really, what intelligence has done has doubted something that would inevitably, naturally just go forth. Because we're important to ourselves, and because we don't understand our exact relationship with the world, with the reality of the world, I think the great compassion of worlds is referring to how you become responsible, your consciousness, your awareness, this intelligence that you are, becomes responsible for the universal sector. When this cosmos becomes your living room, you will feel at home. But in order to live in this room, we have to trust individual dimensions, and we have to trust collective ways that reality happens. It is, if the world was meant to be, if we were meant to just be alone here, if we were meant to just have an enlightenment, personal, individual, nobody else, involved enlightenment, what's the point of everybody being here? What's the point of oneness when there is everybody being here? What's the point of the void when everybody is being here? We are here now. We are alive. We are the voice in the silence of the cosmic expanse. I think there was this quote from Rabindranath Tagore. He says, faith is the bird that feels the dawn when it's dark, something like that. In the darkest hour, in Kali Yuga, in a phase where divinity has stepped in the background, it is the most incredible training if we were eternal. I gave a talk a couple days ago called God is Alone, and for the first time I thought, wait a minute, if reality started from an uncaused and unending intelligence, do you see? So it's as if it's like the world actually was an eternal being that was alone with itself, and the moment this eternal being, it was as if God was alone and he realized he was alone. And he realized the world was from himself. And so it was as if when you are an eternal being, there is nothing else, there is no individualism, so it's as if you are the universe. Imagine being a being that the whole universe is being you, and you realize that you are forever alone. This is like, to me, sometimes people say, some people get emotional, religious people get emotional, and they say, you don't understand what God is doing for us, right? And when I was younger, I was like, all right, man, relax, but then, I began to fathom from a philosophical perspective that what can eternity do with itself? And so it's as if, imagine an eternal being that is forever alone. They say not God is alone, God alone is. So it's this idea that the eternal was alone with itself, and it realized it is alone. It was like, I will create creatures that will never be alone. Because, I don't know, every time something I've created out of myself, believe it or not, it has been alone. It's as if there's a moment where I'm just somewhere. And if there gets released, You know, we are a very rhythmic creature. There's rhythms everywhere. You know, it's not like we can only surf once we have a surfboard and we find an ocean. Every moment, your attention is surfing manifestation. It's surfing the space-time continuum. Or a better metaphor would be that you are an unknown attention looking through your eyes, piloting through a known world. And suffering, misery, joy, this is all about the smoothness and the turbulence of the flight. But ultimately, who are you flying for? You see? And so this is where I think the classification of beings, we can even create a system where those who live for themselves, they are a type of being. Those who live for others, they are also a type of being. And those who live for the world are a different type of being. Do you see? That means those who live for the world, they are seeing something beyond their self. They are seeing something beyond others, as if there are levels ahead of us that we haven't noticed as a species. And who will in some sense be mighty enough to look far ahead? Someone in the chat section says, I feel like the days I plan or try, my mind just goes too many ways due to over motivation. I guess you can call it. Okay, I think I know what you're saying, but the reason is that motivation is like knowing where to go, but it's like the tactics. What I'm saying is like concentration is the secret. Concentration is the secret of the mind. I wouldn't say the secret of the soul, but I would say secret of the mind. If anybody wants to use their mind, just practice single pointed concentration, which is another way of saying you look at something as if that is the only thing in the moment. If you have a capacity to do this, then you can look through many things. It's literally like zooming in and zooming out like a camera, but internally, psychically. Psychologically. Somebody says dependency on others makes one feel inadequate or not sufficient because every question or request for anything needed or wanted, regardless of the reason, is not allowed. Like prioritize. I mean, to be honest, we're different beings. We have different DNAs. We have different preferences. I'm under the impression, just like people have a sense of style when they wear clothing, people also have a sense of style when they go about their life. Now, that style for me personally, you know, I'll tell you something hilarious. There came a moment in my life when I was younger, I felt like a sort of karmic exile. I felt I was locked in my inner realms, pretty much. I felt like I couldn't be myself in the outer realms. But the biggest realization I got was that if I was teleported, imagine suddenly like, you know, an advanced extraterrestrial just came on Earth and they're like, yo, I like this kid, and grabbed my jacket and threw me into another, let's say like planet, into another civilization, right? And when I would be in that civilization, if I just teleported into another world, I would realize, okay, I am alone. And so I must rely on the power that I am. You see, so when you actually learn not to like artificially love with lots of imagery in your mind, but to actually realize that the reason we have been given intelligence is to rely on it. So that was the big change for me. There was a lot of things that were pushing me around. The motivation was like, yo, I wanted one day I would wake up, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? But at some point you just settle in. And Tony Stark accepts the Iron Man suit and flies off to in battle. Do you see? That means it's like, you know, I mean, theoretically, Iron Man could have endlessly till the end of time just updated the Iron Man suit before using it. But at some point he was like, it's enough. I must live now. I must go into the world, for why have I even come here? It's so beautiful because even though it's like physical creatures walking on a planet, there seems to be a significance, an invisible momentum behind every individual. something is moving in the void. That is divinity, right there. You know, the reason we have minds is to acquaint ourselves with the type of decisions we make and to get to see our own ability. And you know, there will come a time where it's as if, imagine, just if you care about theology, just for a moment think that imagine God was like an inventor, was like some scientist, inventor, and this inventor has an apprentice, and let's say that we call the apprentice Lucy, okay? And so this in some sense scientist, who's in some sense like the G scientist G, right? They call them the G's, let's say top G scientist. There's this G, you know, scientist, and this scientist has an apprentice named Lucy, and in some sense this scientist builds an android, but it builds right, like the android is in a room, right? And so what happens is the android has been programmed to not see the apprentice, and so this inventor is looking from behind the mirror. The android's in the room, and the inventor's like, yo, apprentice, go and test this android and see if the android will follow its design. Right? And so the inventor's like, all right, God, all right, G, I'm gonna go. All right. And so the inventor goes into the room, and the android suddenly attains consciousness and doesn't see that there's somebody there pushing it around. Right? And the inventor is looking to see android have faith in its design. When will the android trust what it is, that it is prepared to enter the reality? And if it is not, guess what? The inventor updates it. Because I thought, why would God, who is pure certainty, that means the command of God is like the creation of world, so when God created something, why did he doubt? Why did he decide to entertain the fallen angels' game? Do you see what I'm saying? It's as if the creator is watching its creation because it has not done with it. It has not done creating it. This is something then in religion they should say, did God finish creating man? He created man, and he told the angels to in some sense bow. I mean, what was it? It's as if he imbues with it, with his own breath and presence, you know, with his own power, imbues creates a soul for man, creates the body out of clay, you know, imbues a soul, and then commands this invention of man to say the celestial names, which is another way of saying God was giving man a cosmic mind, was giving him the knowledge of the universe. And then God in some sense commands his whole creation, all worlds to bow to man. Do you see, before mankind made a mistake, we were literally what God was showing off to the world theologically, showing off to everything of itself. And so let's just for a second imagine we are the android. I'm an android. I don't know who invented me. You know, who invented my, let's say, soul and whatnot. My moving, the unknown viewer within. The android is going to be like, yo, you know, if the android is going to be like, yo, I messed up. Oh my God. It's -1 degrees, but I've got to take off my jacket. Okay. find a new song. Alright, let me dive into this a bit more. I'm going to bring the notepad. Anybody has questions, wants me to look at something, comment on something, the chat section is here for your convenience. Alright. So, this is how I would begin. I mean, I've talked about it a lot, but here, let's see what I can do. Okay. All right, the great compassion of worlds will arrive soon. And then in the subtitle I've written, a species that no longer feared. Okay, so what is the great compassion of worlds? How will it arrive? So I can see two questions in the first title. Extract two questions from that. What is a species? What is fear? What is a fearless species like? So, here, I'll start with the subtitle. Biological system that creates that projects a cognitive system to continue the biological system. This is the best way I can define it. The species is visible objects that have become an invisible subject to themselves. This is the mystery of reality. So here, objective, subjective entities. The biological system is temporary. The cognitive system, it's still a mystery in regards to, mind-body dualism and whatnot. All right, what is fear? So I think this would be how I would define fear: an incomplete understanding of the situation. Because most fears, or I shouldn't say it could be an incomplete understanding of the situation. Or here, I should say, there are objective fears and subjective fears. Subjective fears is like what's going to happen to the idea of you. Objective fears is what's going to happen to like your physical existence, right? And it's not that I'm saying like a person, when I say a fearless species, I'm not saying like a stupid species that is like acting like it's not afraid, but what I'm saying, like fear is necessary at certain times, and sometimes it's just information, it's just intense information fear. Or it's an information that the mind doesn't know like how to contextualize, or another way of saying it, it's just a new pattern that the brain's not familiar with, so the brain doesn't know what to do, and if it has to do something quick, it freaks out, right? So when I say onwards to what is a fearless species like, it's like, what do we fear? We fear death. We feel failure, we feel defeat, we feel reduction, we feel being devalued, we fear is what I'm saying, we fear not being seen, not being acknowledged, not doing what we can, right? So really, it's weird, but it seems like fear that is in the present moment, like, you got to do something and the moment goes forth, but fear that's in the future can stick around. That means imagine somebody who's afraid what's going to happen after this life. You're going to have that fear every day. Do you know? Because it's in the future. You're afraid of something that's going to happen in the future, right? And what's remarkable is that there were things that happened in the past we were afraid of, but we went through it and now we're not afraid of it anymore. Do you know? I remember when I was a little kid, I was so shy. I was so shy that I remember somebody had come to our door to give us something, right? Like, some friend or a family member or something, not family member, some person I didn't know. And the person knocked on the door and I was so shy that I just opened the door and I didn't show my face. So imagine like the person's come to the front of the door of the house and then this kid like opens the door, but he doesn't show his face or anything. Right, so I wasn't seeing the guy. I just take my hand, like the guy only sees my hand and just puts the thing in my hand, and I just close the door. I was like that shy, right? I couldn't just open the door and be like, hey, like, just have a conversation, Do you know? Oh man. Guys, something you don't know is that shyness leads to a lot of moments where people are like, yo, what's wrong with you? And a person may go after spirituality, may go become a truth seeker, but at some point you'll realize it's too big. You'll realize it's too unknown. And even if you have, like, let me tell you what happened. Like, something that my approach to knowledge was that just the reason I got into philosophy was that I wanted to see how other human beings had looked at the world so far. What were they seeing so far? And so this made me way more fascinated. Rather than actually trying to learn like geometry or the structure of what these people said, I went and tried to figure out, okay, what kind of person was this person that said such a thing, right? And then I would remember that individual, you know, or I would remember the knowledge of it, right? And something that when it comes to learning, this was huge for me. At some point, I started seeing, listening, and hearing everything like films. So when somebody talks to me, when I was younger, I would just hear words and I wouldn't care, or I wouldn't remember. But then the whole inner realms, the experience of the imagination changed to a film. So when somebody talks now, I see a film and I could remember that image at any time. Way easier than language, way easier than sentence structure. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's about the way you are creating your mind for yourself to help you create everything else for you, you know? And I took a traditional approach. You know, there was the sentence that said, the mind is a lousy master but a great servant. The yogis would say this, right? And to me, I sense that I realized the mind is not some lifeless mechanism. George Baton, where he says, you must serve before you command. And see, most people just want to command the life without actually realizing what is here that they're commanding. You see, this is the difference. A commander that knows what is there that it's commanding, and someone who's commanding people they don't know, right? That's very difficult, right? Because you, in some sense, you don't know how the others are seeing what you're saying. But the intent is ultimately human beings have vision. We're creatures of vision, and we're looking for the furthest vision so far. You know, the thing about knowledge I understood was that every field of knowledge has frontier ideas. So when you go to the frontier of something, you begin to see what's the newest attitude, what's the newest way, approach, or angle a person has, what's the newest idea in that field, right? And once you understand that, you have reached a pedestal, you have reached that point where anything you think about it enters the domain of novel theory. Intelligence is just those people who have questions, and those questions that are so important to them that they require an experiential answer, not just an ideological answer. Most kids, when they go to school, they sit down, the teacher explains something abstract, and then they tells them to answer it in an abstract way, and then they give an abstract answer, and then the teacher's like, good job, kid, you acted like a robot, here's an A+. You know, and rather than the kid actually understanding the relevance of the ideology to the context of the world, the child is just there, just taking it, how do I say it, like for face value. You know, I'm going to actually read something for the viewers. Let me look this up. Alright guys, so I want to read for you something I looked up. So I pretty much looked up certain theories, major theories on pretty much in philosophy how they look at different information theories. Okay? So there's something called semiotics. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and their use in communication. This theory argues that meaning is created through the use of signs and symbols, which are interpreted by individuals based on their cultural and social context. Pragmatics as another information theory. Pragmatics is a study of language use and context. This theory emphasizes the importance of context and situational factors in determining the meaning of communication. So pragmatics is in some sense the role of the context in bringing forth meaning, in giving the information meaning. Semiotics, it's like the symbolism, the way we actually it's like the conceptual, I would say. Let's say the signs and symbols of it. Then we have informational realism. Informational realism is the view that information is an objective feature of the world that exists independently of human minds. This theory argues that information is a fundamental aspect of reality and can be discovered and studied like any other natural phenomena. So yeah, this is where, I guess the analytical philosophers and the continental philosophers kind of separate. That means we're treating like subjects like objects. That means they're quantifiable to that degree. Constructivism is the view that knowledge and information are constructed by individuals through their interactions with the world. This theory emphasizes the active role of the learner in creating meaning and constructing knowledge. Then we have cognitive information processing. Cognitive information processing is the study of how people perceive, process, and store information. This theory focuses on the mental processes involved in information processing and how they affect behavior and decision making. Cybernetics is the study of control and communication in living organisms and machines. This theory explores the similarities between biological and technological systems and how they process and transmit information. Kind of, even though this was useful, it's not exactly what I was looking for. Okay. So hang in there, guys. Finding a better list here. Alright guys, it's taking too long to load. Okay, I'll just read this and then I'll go back to the talk. Information theory is a branch of mathematics and computer science that deals with the study of the quantification, transmission, and processing of information. The field was developed by Claude Shannon in the mid-20th century and has since become an important area of research in several different fields, including communication systems, computer science, and cryptography. At its core, information theory is concerned with measuring and understanding the amount of information that can be transmitted across a communication channel. This involves analyzing the structure of the message being transmitted, the characteristics of the channel through which the message is being sent, and the noise of other factors that may interfere with the transmission of the message. One of the key concepts in information theory is entropy, which is a measure of the amount of uncertainty or randomness in a message. Entropy is related to the number of possible outcomes or states of a message, and the more possible outcomes, the higher the entropy. Information theory also deals with the concept of information capacity, which is the maximum rate at which information can be transmitted over a communication channel. This is influenced by a variety of factors, including the bandwidth of the channel, the strength of the signal, and the amount of noise in the system. Overall, information theory is a powerful tool for understanding the fundamental principles underlying communication and information processing. It has been applied in a wide range of fields, from the design of efficient data compression algorithms to the development of secure communication systems. So you see, I think I would look at it in this sense that, all right, so we're like, yo, we're in a world, there's consciousness, there's information. So consciousness is accessing information. Now, what it does with the information becomes like the person. Do you know that means information is not just just an entity? It's what the accumulated information does. You know, because the information is just stuff in a room. You know, and then there's something that notices this stuff in the room, and because it is in a role of being the small and the big, creates endless interactions with it. You know what it is? It's kind of like it's like the world is like this one being, right? But this one being has to, in some sense, it's like the world was just one intelligence. Oh, bad. You know, we are living, but the way we are knowing how we are living is because the self from yesterday dies and a new self emerges. This world has had a very poetic divine mercy. And that divine mercy, that in one physical lifetime you have been privileged to experience many psychological lifetimes. The cognitive system is so advanced that it is using it. What it is it's like, you know, imagine they're like, yo, we're gonna give you a body, but it's up to you how many types of beings you want to be in this body, right? How many times, how many moments you want to self-simulate as a sort of truth of the reality of your consciousness, right? But in reality, it goes forth. This is the secret of worlds. It all goes forth. It doesn't wait because it knows where it is going. You know, I gave a talk on theology on the idea of God and the concept of destiny, this episode called The Genius of Destiny. And I was saying that in some sense, what does destiny mean? That the ending is known from the beginning, that there are no mistakes, no accidents, that this world is a magnificent work of art. Every part of it matters. Every single drop of ink on the empty canvas, every element of the periodic table in the space-time continuum. You know, it's as if we are the artwork of the gods. We are the paintbrush of the divine. We are the mankind that reminded the universe what it could be again and again and again. You know, it's as if we think that the earth is rising civilizations and, you know, making them fall, and it's as if, oh man, you know, the species doesn't get a break. It keeps reaching a certain threshold and then falls down. But in reality, it's the other way. It's as if the eternal being could not let a planet be alone. It is the compassion of the cosmos for this planet that we are here. We are not the children of the earth. We are the children of the cosmos. We are the playmates of the earth. We are here to play. world that has nothing else to do but to create itself and to dance. The planets are dancing in the sunlight. It's like we think they're orbiting, they're rotating, but they are dancing. The planet is happy because it is no longer alone. It has seen we human beings are the ego of the planet, and the soul is the ego of the universe. The totality of being. Because we are human beings, the human part is like has structure, has shape, there's things to do. But the being part, you see, we are human beings, and once you accept your being, it's literally like the curtains. It's as if there's a box on your head, and once you accept the box, strangely, you notice it and you can take it off. But if you do not accept, this is why they're saying the first thing in transformation or in interventions is like the person has to accept they have a problem. Because we are trying to be so high and mighty in our eyes that we feel that it's like we never need help, This world is incredible. 8 billion creatures standing at the summits of their own mountains, their inner realms, and we're staring at the world, we're watching. It's like unknown beings have come to a world to know themselves as one, as the great movement of species. To me sometimes I think, imagine there was an advanced, very advanced extraterrestrial species. Playfully I'm saying this, like just think of it hypothetically. Imagine there was an incredibly advanced, these next level advanced enlightened beings in the cosmos, and imagine there's like this team of these, like, I don't know, billions and billions of beings, okay? Or maybe like a group of oversouls where all the beings are extending from. But it's as if it's like a group of, it's like imagine It's like imagine 8 billion beings or 10 billion beings, invisible beings outside of the earth, outside of the atmosphere, staring at earth, and they all decide this is a nice place to set up shop. This is a nice place to, in some sense, build the greatest headquarters of intelligent manifestation in the realm. Earth will become known as the great airport of the stars. It's majestic if we have an ability to see beyond who we are. Thank you for listening. I hope this episode has been helpful. Share, subscribe, comment, like, and join. And even if in the darkest hour they say the bird feels the warmth of the sun on its wings, that is the idea of faith. Faith is for those who are actually strategizing for the future. God, divinity, religion, spirituality, truth is for those who are caring for the future's dimensions of being. You see, it's not just a physical evolution anymore. When ideas have become us or act as us. Anyways, rise mankind, rise. Thank you for listening. Blessings.